This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
I think everyone's just buying in. It's fun to come to the rink when you're winning, that's for sure. And obviously we're doing a lot of it on the road, and when you're able to do it at home, that's fun as well. So like I said, I think everyone in the room is just buying into what we've been talking about for a long time. And when it's fun to come to the rink, wins are happening, vibes good, and that's kind of what's going on here.
Vibes are good. Hey, vibes are good. Mish is back.
I'm back.
Welcome back,
yes.
my friend. We missed you.
Thank you. My voice is not completely back, but I think it's more back than it was earlier in the week.
You sound much better.
Yeah, thank you.
And we appreciate Eric Erlinson.
Look, it's the season of illness. So many people I've known and know have been battling some kind of a bug. Your family had the flu. I remember you were saying before Christmas. Somehow you escaped that, though. Didn't you?
I'm built like a...
Yes, your immune system is...
Well, I have all these
You're
kids,
from the
right?
Steel City, so basically...
I have the Steel City immune system. But, like, part of our radio family, like, Chief's been down a little bit. We know Phil's been down a little bit.
I have not done a game with Phil since before Christmas. Not that there have been a lot of home games, but Pat Maroon filled in admirably the other night. If fans didn't get a chance to listen to any of the broadcast, I thought he did a fantastic job for his first game broadcast.
You know what I really liked about what Patty did? He was able to kind of dissect the plays a little bit. I thought that was interesting. Like certain players were here, or this is the defenseman should have moved the puck up this way. I mean, it was just, that's what you want to see. Like, if there's any advice, not that they're asking for it, of former players who want to get into broadcasting and they start talking about, like, what do you want from an analyst? One of the things that I like about Brian Engblom, I think Eddie Olczyk, very good, is that they're able to dissect the play and show you what's happening in a way that, hey, the defenseman was looking to go up the middle, but he doesn't go up the middle because watch the stick from Kucherov. Kucherov gets this. That's what you need. That's what you need. Yeah. And I thought he did a good job of that. So anyways, we were talking about the illnesses, and it's going around, and I know you're battling it, but you're here. Julien spoke to
I was here
media.
for Julien. Yeah, Julien did his mid-season report, which is basically, we're a little past the midway point of the season.
Yeah.
But fireside chat. We actually had the fake fire behind him. It was in the family lounge across from the media room in the bowels of Benchmark International Arena.
So what did we learn
last year? So this is no cameras, so you're not going to see any video of this. A number of the reporters did have their phones out to record it, but I don't think that you're going to hear an audio version either. It's basically just for transcribing. So I will do the best that I can do to kind of relay some of the questions that were asked. But he usually gives a brief opening statement like, here are my thoughts on the team at the halfway point, and then opens it up for questions. And we went almost a full hour. Like, we started at 11, and Steve was in the room with me. We were looking at each other. It's like 11:53. We're like, we need to get to the studio, or else Greg is going to be like treading water here by himself. And it wrapped up. So we got here in the nick of time to join you for the show. So, general thoughts. I'm not going to say anything to the fans that is shocking to hear, because I think a lot of the things that Julien talked about at the beginning, we have talked about. Metrically, the Lightning are in great shape.
Right.
So the one area where they have not done as well in terms of the big five, goals for, goals against, 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill, and out a sixth, which is goal differential, which is something he talked about. We've talked about it a bit in recent weeks. Really the one that is not near the top of the league is the power play, but he referenced that December 9th marker. Remember, we talked about that earlier in the week, where the Lightning starting on December 9th in their game against Montreal are over 25% of the power play, and because they did so well really in the last game, in the last two games, because what did they go 1 for 2 against Colorado, and they went 3 for 5 against San Jose, so it's gone up even a little bit more. I think I mentioned on Monday before the Colorado game, which was my last show with you, I think they were at 26 or something. He said we're at 28% and change since December 9th. So that's great. And that's moving the Lightning up the league standings. But the other ones, offense defense, penalty kill, 5-on-5. Really what he talked about is 5-on-5 play and goal differential. And he's like, those are indicators. Those are probably two of the most reliable indicators of future success. If you're doing well in those areas and it's a big enough sample size, the wheels are probably not going to come like flying off, right? There's no mirage there. And he feels very, very good about his team. So that was kind of his opening salvo, if you will. There were a lot of questions. So I know I asked a couple. So I'll tell you what I asked. I asked about faceoffs. They said, okay, this is the one stat area that has been near the bottom of the league.
Sure.
But it hasn't hurt you. Like, it hasn't. The Lightning are at 55 points through 42 games. They have the best points percentage in the Eastern Conference. We just talked about how well they're defending both penalty kill and 5-on-5. So losing faceoffs hasn't hurt them in terms of losing games, let's say. So I said, how much of a concern is this to you? And would you consider trying to address it at the deadline, understanding you may upset the apple cart, which is something I know we have talked about. Like, if you bring in a faceoff specialist, where's that guy going? Whose spot is he taking? If you feel like you need better faceoff percentages on the power play, or you bring this guy out to try and win the faceoff, and if you win it, is he going to the bench? Like, how is this going to work? And what Julien said was, faceoffs are important. Not all faceoffs are created equal, although I would argue that some of the important faceoffs Lightning have not done well at this year. I mean, they had a horrible night against Colorado in the circle. Didn't hurt them, but they lost some important faceoffs that they would have helped their cause if they had won them in the defensive zone, particularly when it was 6-on-5 and it was 3-2, right? They were losing faceoff after faceoff after faceoff. It didn't hurt them because they defended well enough. So understanding that not all faceoffs are created equal, what Julien said was, I am more concerned, if that's the right way of putting it, with our goal differential and our 5-on-5 play than faceoffs. Fair.
Really? Interesting.
Well, I mean, you could be a great faceoff team, but if you're underwater 5-on-5, it's not really helping you. In fact, we can even look up. I'm going to look up.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
The very best faceoff team.
Is that an issue? Would the 5-on-5 and the goal differential? I guess that's my question.
So the Toronto Maple Leafs are the number one faceoff team in the NHL. What's their goals allowed?
Right.
It's not good. 3.29. They're in the bottom third of the league. So their ability to win faceoffs is not translated to really stout defense, although they're playing better of late. Their 5-on-5 ratio is 1.
Yep.
So they've scored exactly as many 5-on-5 goals as they've allowed. So Julian's point is not that I don't care about faceoffs. Julian's point is that I am always looking, but I like what our team is doing in terms of 5-on-5 play and outscoring the other team, goal differential. And they're defending well. I mean, I think they're third. I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah, the Lightning are third, tied for second, actually, with Minnesota for goals allowed per game. So does this mean the Lightning are going to make a move at the deadline to get a faceoff guy? No. They could make a move at the deadline to get a faceoff guy. What I'm saying is that Julien is not prioritizing this like at the top of the wish list. The other thing he mentioned is that, all of our main guys are below their career averages. So he's like, I think we can get better. But my follow-up question was, how much of this is related to all of your lefties are now being asked to take faceoffs on their weak side? He's like, fair. So Cirelli, for example, is below his career average. But how many more faceoffs has Anthony Cirelli had to take this year on his weak side because they don't have a Glendening? Or before that, a Stamkos, let's say, would take penalty kill faceoffs on his strong side. Now Cirelli has to take them. Cirelli's shorthanded faceoff percentage is terrible. I mean, I'm not like chirping him. You want him on the penalty kill, but he's being put in a tough spot. He's taking on a guy who's on his strong side. He has to put a stick down first. It kind of follows that his penalty kill faceoff percentage would struggle. So we'll monitor that. His overall point is correct, though, that the main guys for the Lightning all are below their career percentages, maybe with the exception of Paul, who is he's still over 50%. Right. Anyway, that was one question. Another question I asked was about, so last year at the same fireside chat, he talked about the improvement the Lightning had made defensively, which they had. 23-24, they were a bottom third team defensively, bottom third team 5-on-5 ratio. Last year, they elevated those numbers to top 5 for both. And he talked about it at the midway point last year. He talked about it after the season last year. And I said, so much of what went well for the Lightning defensively last year was tied to McDonough's return. Yeah. McDonough led the NHL in plus minus. It's like, in some ways, is it more impressive to you that they've been able to maintain these numbers missing McDonough for half the year in addition to the other guys? And what he said was, well, first of all, we're very happy that McDonough is going to be coming back, right? But he said it's a testament to how, because he kind of said at the beginning, how hard the team has worked defensively. He's like, I'm going back to that. But he also said something interesting. He's like, don't underestimate, if you were even thinking about it, the impact that McDonough and Hedman have had on these other defensemen, both when they're in the lineup and when they're not in the lineup. He's like, they have been great mentors to many of the younger players. And I think it might have been Crozier who was asked after a morning skate one time, it might have been when McDonough was coming back, but he talked about the impact that McDonough's presence has had on his game. Like, the younger guys learn by watching and talking to the two veteran guys, basically.
And those are things we don't see.
Those are things we don't see.
How to be a pro, maybe just carrying yourself.
Right. And even so, that's important, but even just, how to handle a situation on the ice.
Sure.
And how to make a tough play, how to deal with pressure, how to handle a forward barreling down on you on the forecheck. So those are the two questions I had at the beginning. Later, like, some of the conversation got into the Team Canada, which was interesting.
Yeah. Right.
Lightning fans may not be quite as interested in hearing about that side of it. But I asked, he talked about the process, and what he said was the group was very collaborative. He basically deferred on the guys on the Lightning. He's like, it's not important what I think, it's more important what others think. And the opposite is also true. If there was a player on a team whose GM was in the group, that GM's voice carried less weight because they understand there's a built-in bias there. It has to be somebody looking at it from the outside. And what he said, it was a very, very hard decision, but ultimately, they were like, here are the boxes we need to check, and how many boxes does this particular lineup allow us to check? So what I asked was, how much did this selection process, if at all, differ from last year with the Four Nations? Because the Olympics, first of all, have more teams, and it's a longer tournament. I said, or is it more about where is the player this year as opposed to where is the player last year? And he said it's more that. So he's like, we had a couple of younger guys who have, they were great last year, but they're even better this year. They pulled themselves into the conversation, really. He was talking about Celebrini and Bedard. And then he's like, and then we have these elder statesmen who are all having career years. So he's like, everybody was making a case, right, to get on the team, which made it tough. He said also last year for Four Nations, the rosters were due in early December. This year they had an extra month. So if somebody got off to a slow start last year, that may have worked against them. This year they've had extra time, which you might say is good, but it also complicates matters, right? Because if you got off to a bit of a slow start, you could have picked it up in November. And, now you're looking at it from a management standpoint and like, okay, well, this player is having a very, very good year. So this player deserves to be in the mix. So those are the questions I asked. We can get it if you want to ask me, and maybe that'll jar my memory and be like, yeah, he talked about this as well. And we can certainly get questions from the fans. If fans have questions, that might jog my memory too and say, yeah, he talked about this.
Spidey sense about trade deadline. Did anybody get into, would you be active? Did he get into that?
Yeah, so he did say he's always looking to improve the team. So the Lightning entered the season with more cap space than what they have had. With all the injuries, they've basically blown through that extra cap space. So I wasn't aware of that. I guess I could have been if I'd looked at Puckpedia. Yeah. But it's going to be probably more similar to previous years in terms of being creative to make a move, or dollars in are going to have to be accounted for with dollars out. So
did he get into players, the hard decisions when everybody does come back and
he said that's a John Cooper problem on defense.
That's a John Cooper problem.
He laughed about it.
But some of those guys clearing waivers, was any of that discussed?
He said we want to keep everybody, obviously. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's not expecting everybody to be healthy until after the Olympics. And then they would be at the point where they could start accruing some cap space, but the trade deadline is going to be coming soon after. So you're not going to have much time to accrue cap space.
Any questions about the development of the younger players? Geeky specifically down in Syracuse.
Yeah, Deandra Lou asked about that. Yeah. So what they like about where Geeky is at right now, he is touching the puck a ton. So he's playing top 6 minutes. He's playing in the first power play. He's playing in the penalty kill. And while he did address some of the things that the team wanted him to address during this offseason, notably his skating and maybe getting stronger, and Julien said, I noticed in camp, he'd improved in both those areas. And he also said he could come up and help us right now, but they felt it was best for his development, which is kind of what we were speculating. If he stays in Syracuse and continues, he's not going to get the same number of touches.
Yeah.
With the Lightning,
sure, right,
that he is getting with Syracuse. And he said on many nights, he didn't say he's the best player on the ice, but he is noticeable in terms of impacting the game in a positive way.
How about the Douglas Sabrin just being on the roster, Douglas staying on the roster?
Well, he didn't say that he's not going to stay in the roster.
Sure.
Jay Retcher asked about, adding those guys with Florida in mind. He said, honestly, we're just looking. He was going to say we have these guys to play Florida.
We had these guys play Florida.
Although they've played against Florida in the games that the Lightning have had against Florida. What he said was, we're trying to build the best team, honestly. And one thing he said at the beginning is he does feel that, did he use the word physical? I'm asking Steve here. He either said, we're a little harder to play against, or, we're a little more physical. Remember he said that at the beginning, just talking about the team in general as compared to last year. While they were just as good defensively, it might be that they've got a little bit more snarl to their game, and some of that is the Douglas and Sabrin effect. Although I think he was just talking in general. I mean, Moser plays with snarl. Crozier plays with snarl. I mean, we're seeing that, right? Who knew that Jake Gensel is going to play with snarl? But Jake Gensel is getting his nose dirty, right, this year.
Talk about any Gage Gonsalves and his development and how
he didn't get asked about Gage. No, that's the one I remember, that he was not asked specifically about it. I actually also so where he talked about James, so what he said was, who was he talking about in this regard? It was somebody, it was Radish. So he was asked about Radish. So let me just get this out of the way first, because he was asked about the contract for Radish, because the Lightning have re-signed some players in season on defense.
We didn't even get to Radish. This would be a good question. Yeah.
So he was asked just generally about Radish and then about his contract, and he answered the question generally about Radish, didn't address the contract, and then Jay asked, or it was Ed Encina. I want to give credit where credit is due. Ed Encina asked, well, what about the contract? Is this going to be an in-season thing? And he's like, right now I want to wait. And he said, the reason I want to wait is what Radish has done, it has been in a very short sample size. He had the numbers, whatever it is, like 30 some odd points in 20 some odd games. He's
point
like,
per game, right?
I need to see a little more
right.
to get an idea of how to structure the contract.
Right.
Which is fair. Now, does that mean he's going to wait until the offseason? Maybe not. But right now, I think he's trying to get a read on, is this a short-term burst, or is this a step the player has taken that is going to be sustainable? Because that is going to inform how you structure the next contract. Because he said in the first answer, he's like, I'm very happy for Darren Radish because he set himself up for a life-changing contract. That's what he said.
We've talked about that. And the thing
next contract is going to be money and term. So if you're Julien, you have to be like, okay, what are these numbers going to look like? What do I make of what has been happening here since, let's say, early November?
And the only metric that's going to accurately tell you that story is games played. Because
Right.
I don't think you can look at, well, his shooting percentage from the blue line in is,
Yes.
35%. And we think that's going to lower. Like, I think this is just, can you do it for a consistent amount of time?
And one thing he said in not Radish's defense, but like kind of explaining this eruption, he's like, he's getting regular reps now and building chemistry, which is fair. Like in past years when he was on the first power play unit, it was sporadic. Now he's getting those regular reps really with Kucherov, right? Mm-hmm. Going back and forth with Kucherov. How many goals has he scored, or how many goals have been set up by that shot where he's getting off the one-timer off the pass from Kucherov, and also getting the reps with Moser, where they have been a pair basically consistently for, what do we want to say, 6 weeks now, thereabouts.
Yeah.
So he's understanding. Julien is understanding and trying to explain what he is seeing in terms of this production, not just some like flash in the pan, but the evolution of a player who's worked very hard to get better, has improved, and now is getting big time reps and feeling, I use this word, comfortable with those reps and being able to do what he does. But the answer about Radish fed into James. He mentioned James kind of as a like ancillary player to mention. What he said was, Radish joined our organization with no fanfare, no expectations that he would maybe get to the NHL. He was a minor league guy prior to coming to the Lightning's organization. He's like, this is a player who took advantage of our resources, put in the work, got better, moved up to the NHL, became an NHL regular, and now is playing top minutes. So he's like, that is great for him, but it also sends a message to other players about what it is like to join our organization with little fanfare and move up. And he used Yanni Gourde as another example. Sure. So he's like, why did Dominic James decide to sign with the Lightning? I mean, he didn't say Dominic James looked at what happened with Yanni Gourde or with Darren Radish, but players have eyes, right?
What Carlisle said. Carlisle said undrafted guys that they have a winning culture. That's why I wanted to go there.
Yes. Yeah. And also the development part of it, which is something we've addressed a lot on the show, like how good the Lightning are at developing players. Now it's a two-way street. You get out of it what you put into it, right? The resources are there. Are you going to take advantage of those resources? And by take advantage, I mean really put in the work when it's just you, whether it's conditioning during the off season or putting in the extra time in practice, asking for guidance. I mean, I'm not there, so I can't speak to it as specifically as somebody who's been through it. Mm-hmm. But players who are looking for a home and have a chance to choose where they want to go, which James did, which Destu did, which Gourde did, which Radish did, they can look at the track record of this organization. They're not the only one, but they're one of them, where it's like, yeah, you can come in with no fanfare and make the NHL and become an NHL regular.
Was there any talk about Stahoviak being called up at some point? Just that we've taken a lot of questions about him early on.
So, by the way, welcome to Julie Stewart-Binks, who's filling in for Gabby. Congratulations to Gabby. Am I allowed to say that? No? Okay. Well, congratulations to Gabby that she finished this stretch of time and she is on maternity leave. Yes. So, baby on the way. Congratulations to her.
For sure.
But Julie is filling in. So, Julie asked the question, is there any other Radish down in Syracuse?
Yeah.
And he said, we have a lot of players. He's like, he didn't single anyone out. So.
Okay. I mean, that's
I mean, that's fair.
Trying to think,
right.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think anything off the top.
I mean, I'm not kidding, Greg, when I say like this was almost an hour and he gave lengthy answers, but there are a lot of questions. Yeah.
That's why it's good.
Eric Erlinson asked about the World Juniors. He talked about Sam O'Reilly, who had a great tournament for Canada. I know Canada didn't get gold, but he's like, O'Reilly came in as a fourth line guy. And by the end, he was playing top minutes. He was named one of the top 3 players on Canada. And he said, what we see at the World Juniors, you might be a point producer at the World Juniors. That doesn't always translate to the pro game. But if you can defend well at the World Juniors, that is something that does translate. And he's like, his hockey IQ, his defensive responsibility, his, ability to check, he's like, all that was like off the charts high.
Yeah.
So very, very encouraging. I guess London is not going to be a good team this year, which is interesting because they've won back-to-back Memorial Cups, because he said O'Reilly just got traded. So a player like that would get traded to a team that has designs on going on a deep run. So he got traded to Kitchener, which is, I guess, a much better team. I haven't followed the OHL this year, but that means that he is in store for another great experience, maybe in the OHL playoffs, and who knows, maybe even the Memorial Cup once more.
Did he get into injuries? Update on the players who are out on schedule to return?
No, nothing specific.
Nothing like that? Okay.
Other than after the Olympics, that would be the time that they expect to be fully healthy. He did the, knock on wood, except he knocked his head a couple of times.
Anybody ask about Hagel's injuries? Hits to the head? No, things,
Is there anything else I'm missing that's obvious, Steve? Steve's thinking.
Well, I think the face-off, the power play, if that's all like a John Cooper
if
decision.
fans have any questions, ask questions, fans. We're on live today. Good. So, I mean, we can respond in time. Did you and Eric go over pretty comprehensively the Colorado game?
We did, but if we can do it again, if you want to, I know you've had some general thoughts.
I thought it was a fantastic defensive performance for the Lightning. I thought that they did such great work bottling up the McKinnon line, which is no small feat. I mean, this guy is on, and I mean, we talk about MVP, like he is on an MVP run this year. He's like a galloping stallion that is like trying like stable this guy. It's really, really hard to do. And I thought the Gord line with Moser and Radish, they were exceptional in that game. The biggest way they did it was playing with the puck in the offensive zone, forcing the McKinnon line to play defense. But when McKinnon and his line mates had the puck, they really did a good job of not letting them accelerate through the neutral zone, which was a big part of, they just didn't get anything going. So a couple of big moments in the game for sure. The Gergensons goal I thought was huge because it got the Lightning to 2-2 heading into the third. Power play scored again, which is really encouraging to see. And Point got loose for 3 opportunities, which may have opened up Gensel to walk it from the goal line extended toward the net and shoot it in. So, look, it was a very, very solid game. I will point this out as a caveat. I do not believe the Lightning saw the Avalanche's absolute best. But you can't control that, right? So, why do I think that? Part of it is they're on a long road trip. Part of it is they had this tremendous first half. They lost a game, and they exhaled a little bit. When Colorado amped it up, they amped it up twice. They amped it up at the beginning of the second, and the Lightning had some problems. Remember, the fourth line for Colorado had a really good ozone shift, and they scored, but it wasn't just them. And then when it was 3-2, we came out of the last TV timeout, and soon after the Avs pulled the goalie. In the last 4 minutes and I think 40 seconds or something like that, Colorado had 11 shots on net and 21 shot attempts. I wrote down how many they had in the third period. They had 27 shot attempts in the third period. So 21 of those 27 shot attempts came in the last 4 minutes and change when they were down 1 and then down 2. Cirelli scored the empty netter with about 1:35 left, but they kept pushing. And they had more shots and attempts when it was 4-2. But especially when it was 3-2, they revved it up. And you can see how dangerous they are. So the Lightning shouldn't have to apologize for that. I thought the Lightning met the moment. I said that they didn't really meet the moment in the game in Denver where they had come in on a long winning streak themselves. I thought the Avs had the upper hand. I thought the Lightning had the upper hand by a significant margin in the game on Tuesday. And some of that was them. And some of that was Colorado is like, it's game 42. We're up 11 points on the next closest team. Like, that's going to be a challenge for Colorado, which is normal, right? When you have that big of a lead. The game mattered more to the Lightning than it did to Colorado. And the Avs are going to find that at points during the second half. They are. It's baked into the cake because they have such a big lead. You'd love to have the big lead. Jared Bednar would love to have that challenge. I bet whoever they play next and they're going home, they are going to feel the brunt of the ire of the Avalanche. Avalanche are like, we lost 2 in a row. This ends now. Like, they're going to play angry in their next game. They were a little flat, I thought, in the game against the Lightning. A little flat. I mean, a flat McKinnon is still able to do a lot. So credit to the Lightning for how well they played.
And I would say, to your point, I think sometimes we say this about the other team potentially when, the Lightning aren't playing particularly well. I mean, Colorado didn't have a great game. A lot of factors because of that, but I think one is because the Lightning played well.
I wouldn't say they had an objectively bad game.
Right.
I'm just saying they weren't firing on all cylinders like they can. And some of that was the Lightning. Some of that was the Lightning frustrating them.
Yes.
But when they revved it up, you could see how much they are to handle, how difficult it is to handle them.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's all fair. And I think
they're the best team for a reason. What we saw on Tuesday night doesn't change my opinion of how good Colorado is. They are a fantastic team. But the Lightning got them on Tuesday, which was important because they're playing these 9 games in 8 different cities, but one of the cities is a road city. It's Philly. They have 2 games in Philly. The other games are all in different cities. So this one home game is almost like a road game, and the Lightning were able to consolidate their one home game and turn it into 2 points.
And I think what's fair is, we talk about other teams being really good, and Colorado is. It's okay to come out and say the Lightning are a really good team too. It is okay to say it at this point. It 100% what they're dealing with, what they've dealt with. Give credit where credit's due. Nick says Thursday really brought me back to the cup runs and the speed and staying on top of the puck with the guys we have had up because injury on D. Do you think they can keep that up after the break? I hate to say it, but Hetty and even McDonough aren't youngins, and it showed the slow and speed earlier this year. Just curious in your opinion.
So I think, is it Nick? Nick means Tuesday, right? Today is Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
Today's.
Yes. Yeah, they had a great game. They are going to welcome McDonough and Hedman back with open arms when they are ready to return. And as Julien said, that's John Cooper's problem to figure out how to allocate the minutes, but it was informative that when Hedman came back for the 2 games and then a period, he was playing on the third pair with Crozier and not seeing first power play time.
Yeah.
If the power play continues to click at about, let's say, 25% from now until Hedman's return, I would be flabbergasted.
Yeah.
If they switch up the unit. I mean, they had Sergachev mostly on the top unit. What year was that? 22-23? Am I remembering right?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago, wasn't it? 2 or 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago. Because then 23-24 was the tough injury year for Sergachev.
Yeah, right.
So, look, I mean, if the power play is working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I love that line.
We can make the argument that maybe it's still a little bit broke. We'll see if this, because what is today? January 8th?
It is January 8th?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about December 9th was when that's that marker where the power play started to click. It's been a month. Like, that's not 2 months, 3 months. Let's see if they can keep it going. But the returns have been good. And as I mentioned on Monday, they've gone, whatever it was, 0 for 9 in 2 games against Florida during the stretch. They're still going to have to figure that out. But that means they've been even better than 28% against every other team that they've seen on the power play.
Agreed. And this question came from Carl. Power play is currently 15th. Quite an improvement.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to have a month at just under 30%, you're going to, unless you're already, second, right? You're going to improve. What did I have them at going into the game? They were at 19.5% going into that game. So they probably aren't quite at 20%, but close to it.
Danny says, I've heard fans wanting Stammer back for face-offs and a slap shot on the power play since Nashville doesn't want to eat money. Is there a player either of you can think of that would fill that role beside him? No.
Let me just say they're exactly at 20%. So the 1 for 2 got them to 20%. Go ahead, Greg.
He also goes on to say, I guess a better way to word it is there an obtainable player either you can think of that the Bolts could go after to fill that role?
Well, we talked about this a little bit. I mean, you can look at the top faceoff guys. I mean, if you're really targeting it, you want a righty. And Stamkos is a righty. But what I heard from Julien today is whoever they would acquire for faceoffs has to fit in the overall kind of logic of building the team. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree with you.
Jumped in there.
And I think we've always talked about that too, because if you're trying to kill two birds with one stone, you're probably talking about a guy in a top 6 or in a top 9. You know, who's coming out, you know, from that perspective. I think the face-off one is just very interesting. I've maintained this partner. I don't know with the players they currently have if you're going to see too much more of an improvement when it comes to their percentage going up. I don't know. I certainly don't think you have somebody who, you know, can go in there and there's a really good chance they're going to come out and win that face-off. I don't know if they have that guy. Maybe Nick Paul. I don't know. And I think that's why it's the one area I would strongly consider potentially upgrading. The question is, what are you giving up and what else can that player do? Because I don't think you can just bring somebody in who just wins face-offs.
So to me, the D zone faceoffs are more important than the offensive zone faceoffs. Now, if you're down by a goal and you've pulled the goalie and you got a faceoff in the offensive zone, that's a very, very important faceoff. You have to find a way to win that faceoff. But usually you have options. Like Point would be out there. Point is a righty. So that's where Julien talking about Point needs to get back to. Let me actually pull up the Lightning's power play stats so we can see exactly where they're at. So if it's to the left of the goalie, if the Lightning can't choose, let's say, the puck's out of play, it's going to be on one side or the other, but they can't pick, right? If it's to the left of the goalie, you're going to have Point take the draw. If it's to the right of the goalie, you have a lot of lefties who can take the face-off. Sorry, I'm pulling up Lightning's face-off numbers here. So Point's at 45.3%. I mean, that's below his career average. So unlike a lot of the other guys that are lefties being asked to take faceoffs on their weak side, Point really hasn't been asked to do that. So he's a guy, let's see if he can get that up closer to 50% in the second half of the year. So an O-zone faceoff where you absolutely need the draw at the end of the game is important, but I think the Lightning are more well-equipped to put a guy in a strong side and hopefully have some of these guys do a little bit better. And maybe if you can pick the circle, you're putting the opposing team centerman on his weak side, which would give you an advantage. It's really the defensive zone faceoffs that could be a problem in a key moment. I mean, remember Montreal won a faceoff at the end of that game and got the game tied with 3 point whatever seconds left. Now, that was a one-off. It's not like it's happened a lot this year, but that was a situation. I think it was Cirelli. Cirelli or Gord. One of them was out there on his weak side, lost the faceoff, right? Deno on a strong side, he won the faceoff. So here's the question. They being the other team, they are going to look to put Cirelli, Gord, Paul, whomever is out there in the 5-on-6 for the Lightning or penalty killing. Cirelli or Gord probably going to be one of the two taking the faceoff to start the penalty kill. They are going to be put on their weak side. They're going to be at a disadvantage. Also, you're down a player, either shorthanded or 5-on-6. So the other team can theoretically get an advantage on 50-50s, although they have some of their players back at the blue line. The Lightning also have their defenseman not jumping into the circle either, probably. The defenseman is staying out of there in case the puck comes free. He needs to be in position either to get it or defend an opposing player who gets it. My question to you, to the fans, to whomever, and what Julien has to think about is, if we acquire a right-handed faceoff specialist that we can use in that situation, do we want him out there for the penalty kill? Do we want him out there for 5-on-6? Because if he loses the faceoff, we're not having Cirelli. Or if we have Cirelli with the righty, then we're not having the other guy. We're not having Hagel out there for penalty kill. We have this new player that we brought in to help us win faceoffs who is not necessarily one of our top 3, 4, 5, 6 forwards that we would be putting out there. So it would have to be a player, and that's where Glendening really fit the bill for the Lightning because he was a penalty kill guy, but he was also, 34, 35. And, the Lightning wanted younger legs, which makes sense. So now they don't have a reliable right-handed faceoff guy, but they do have reliable penalty killers and 5-on-6 guys. That is really going to the crux of what Julien said when I asked that question. He said, I would rather have our 5-on-5 numbers and goal differential than the faceoff percentage.
Yeah.
He wants all three, but I don't think that anyone the Lightning would bring in off the top of my head. The fan was like, who would they bring in? I'm not sure it would make sense to bring in a lefty. That lefty is going to have a disadvantage, just as the same as the other lefty. So it would have to be a righty. If you're not going to give that responsibility to Point, you're not going to give that responsibility to Finley, who's in his first NHL season. It has to be somebody else, and that player has to have a defensive mindset. There are no Patrice Bergerons out there. Giroux's the best guy in the league. He's a righty. They're not getting Claude Giroux.
Yeah.
They're not, right? So I don't know
Fair.
if there's an answer to this question. It may just have to be that the guys they have are going to have to improve. And even when they improve marginally, I think that would help.
So off the top of your head, and obviously I think you're looking at it right now, how...
Paul's the only guy over 50% on the entire team.
I was going to say, just in terms of career average and where the guys are now, how below are they to the norm?
I would have to look at each guy and kind of see where they are year by year. But this is the crux of it. So Anthony Cirelli's at 48%. He's taken more faceoffs than anybody else on the Lightning. He has taken power play faceoffs, some. He's not taken as many power play faceoffs as Point or as Gensel.
Yeah.
Usually Gensel's on the left, Point's on the right. But he's taken 53 power play faceoffs. He's also taken, quick math here, 135 shorthanded faceoffs. Okay? He's at 48% overall. On the power play, he's 138 and only lost 15.
Gotcha.
That's close to 70%. He's winning more than 2 out of every 3 on power play. Why? He's on a strong side. And they're probably putting the opposing centerman on his weak side. So when Cirelli gets a chance to take a faceoff on a strong side where he can put a stick down second, he's rolling in at close to 70%. Shorthanded, 149, lost 86. He's at a minus 37. How many of those shorthanded faceoffs is he on his weak side?
Yeah.
Taking on a guy on a strong side where he has to put a stick down first. So I think they're going to keep going to him, and hopefully he can improve that percentage. I don't have the math brain to be able to figure out what that is exactly, but if you're winning 50 out of, let's say, 135 faceoffs, that's not great. That's above 33%, but not much better. So it's the same dynamic in the 5-on-6. It's very similar to penalty killing. What about Nick Paul? He's only taken 14 shorthanded faceoffs. He's 8-6. So he's right there, and that's one reason why he's at 51.7%. Paul's been kind of steady Eddie. He's slightly above 50% basically every category, even strength, power play, and shorthanded when he's been asked to take them. Maybe they go to him if he's becoming a little bit more reliable, because he can play that role. He can play penalty kill. He can play 5-on-6. But he's not usually out there on the 5-on-6 off the bat. Usually the Lightning have Cirelli, Hagel, and Kucherov as the forwards in the 5-on-6.
Steve says it would be interesting to see if Julien can acquire a player to help the faceoffs and play in that top 6 or 9 for a package that includes maybe Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand is a good player and has value, but clearly hasn't been a fit for the Bolts, but may thrive elsewhere. Based on his play, unless something drastically changes, he's not going to be re-signed, and it would be better to recoup something for him since we gave up a first for him and are not going to see a return anywhere near that.
So I will say that Julien spoke highly of Bjorkstrand. If you look at his point totals in the last 10 to 11 games, I think he's at about a point per game. I may have that wrong. Julien rolled off the numbers, and I didn't register it, nor did I write it down. But he has produced more recently, really going back to that December 9th game, if we want to look at that. Julien talked about, I know he's a minus player this year, but he talked about his good 5-on-5 play. They like that about him. I think they like having Bjorkstrand on the team. And again, this goes to the question. So, I mean, Stamkos would be a guy that would obviously be an upgrade at that circle. He's one of the best to ever play it, who is a righty who can win faceoffs. But I don't know that the Lightning, I mean, I was seeing Nashville, they're going to move Stamkos. They want the other team to take on the entire salary.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
So, I mean, like,
Not going to do it.
and I'm not kind of picking apart Steven's tweet here, but it's not just like looking at it on paper and being like, okay, let's plug this guy out and plug this guy in. Again, where do they need help on faceoffs? They really, really need help on faceoffs in the defensive zone when it's to the right of the goalie.
Sure.
That's where they need help on faceoffs. Who is going to provide that help, and what else is that player going to do? I mean, the fan was like saying a top six. I mean, they have a top six who's a righty right now, point. They're not asking him to take those faceoffs. So I think if they actually get someone, and we'll see if they do, it has to be somebody who fills more of a defensive role, not a substitute for Bjorkstrand at that circle. So to me, those are two different categories. Maybe there is one player that can fit kind of the bill on both of those.
Yeah.
But that's extremely rare. Giroux would be a guy. They're not getting Claude Giroux.
Understood. Yeah.
Now,
makes
I will
sense.
mention Sam O'Reilly is a defensive-minded forward who's a righty, who's a center. But that's next year. If he even starts the year in the NHL. Who knows?
Tonight, enjoy some Refrum, smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a tropical wave or a lightning mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrum is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrum by name. Go Bolts. Please enjoy responsibly. All right, we want to get to a few more questions here for sure. And let me see. This one was Ranger. I still like Greg's idea of Brian Rust. Well, as you
Wouldn't
should.
help
That's
you
my
on
idea.
faceoffs, though.
He would not. No. Jim says people hate because he is not Stamkos, but Stamkos would decline every other area, including 5-on-5. I mean, those are metrics you'd have to look at. Thaw345 says Bolts trade for Malkin. What say you, Greg? Well, I don't think
Well,
Malkin's
he's a
going to help you.
centerman, but he's a lefty again, right?
He's not going to help you in the faceoff circle much. I think he's below 50%. Is he having a good bounce back season? Yes, he's been injured. And I think as long as Pittsburgh maybe hovers around the playoffs, you're probably going to keep him, even though that's a contradiction for me saying get rid of Brian Rust, who I think would be valuable for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I understand you'd have to probably give up a hefty package to get a player like that.
I'm actually just looking at the top faceoff guys, so it's kind of
good.
interesting. Giroux is number one. And remember, he was at 67% a couple of weeks ago. Now he's at 64.7. That was going to be almost impossible for him to maintain. He also doesn't take as many faceoffs as you might think for a guy who's number one in the NHL. So Giroux is number one. I'm looking at the next guys. So seventh is Pajot. He's a righty. The next righty is number 19. So only 2 of the top 18 faceoff guys in the NHL are righties. Now, there are more lefties than righties. So
Sure.
in some way that makes sense. But number 19 is a guy. I'm not saying that he's available. I actually don't think he is available.
Lightning Power Lunch has said this
Yeah.
player is available.
I'm just looking at the list here. And in fact, the other guys on this, so there are 2 more righties, which I'll get to. Elias Lindholm in Boston is 22nd. He's not going anywhere.
right.
Vincent Trocheck with the Rangers is 25th.
There you
He's
go.
not
I'd
going
get
anywhere.
him.
Yeah, I don't think
Forget
he's going
about it.
anywhere.
Forget about
He
it.
does kill penalties.
He
but
does.
the
He's a
guy
good player.
that is 19th is Colton Sissons with Vegas.
Gotcha.
So he is a bottom 6. He's a penalty killer. He can be used in 5-on-6. He is a righty. His faceoff percentage is 55.2% right now.
Yeah.
That would be the sort of player that could fill the bill of we want this guy to take the key face off.
Yeah.
And if we happen to lose it and can't get him off the ice, it's okay because we actually like having him on the ice.
Hey, Greg,
But
you
Vegas,
think
why would Vegas trade Colton Sissons? They like him.
You think the Pens would trade Crosby to the Lightning? I'm going to hang up and listen. Thanks, first time caller.
Now, there may be other guys who aren't on this list because they haven't taken as many faceoffs to qualify. You have to have you have to take 15% of a team's total faceoffs to qualify. But if you haven't even taken 15% of your team's faceoffs, why is that, right? Sure. Are you reliable in the circle?
Paul says, with our half-season success despite all the major injuries, assuming the wheels don't come off, do you believe that an Olympic victory would likely secure the Jack Adams for Coop? Finally.
So we have addressed this point numerous times on Power Lunch, and as a member of the Broadcasters Association and the Broadcasters Vote for the Jack Adams, I've answered this question or made this point many, many times. The votes are cast at the end of the regular season before one playoff game is played. And the 1 year that John Cooper probably could have, should have won it, when the Lightning won 62 in the regular season, Barry Trotz won it because the Islanders went from 32nd defensively without him to first. They had the huge jump. The Lightning were already a very, very good team. The fact that they set the record was overshadowed by what Trotz did with the Islanders. In all the other regular seasons, I mean, how many regular seasons have the Lightning even won their division? That has worked against Coop. Where he has really been a money coach is in the playoffs. Obviously, the last 3 years, the Lightning have gone out in the first round. But prior to that, look at all the, the cups, the appearances in the finals, the appearances in the conference finals. They've won a lot of playoff series under John Cooper. This year is a little different because this year is a year in which the Lightning, I think, have exceeded expectations. Right now, they are at the top of the Atlantic Division standings and the Eastern Conference standings, or at least points percentage-wise. And we do have this Olympic tournament, which technically shouldn't count, but it will count. I think people will notice if Canada wins Olympic gold and Coop is the coach, that will be another feather in his cap to get votes. But the siren song of, oh, we didn't think this team would be any good, and look at how good they are, or Colorado. If Colorado sets the points record, I mean, isn't that an argument for Jared Bednar? Same as the argument would have been for Coop in 18-19 when the Lightning won 62. If you feel John Cooper should have won the Coach of the Year award in 18-19, make me an argument why Jared Bednar shouldn't win it this year, assuming the Avalanche win 60-plus games, which their 2-game losing streak notwithstanding. They're certainly on pace to do that. We'll see. I only get one vote. I pick 3 names. Now, a lot of fans were absolutely going ballistic. I saw this because NHL.com did a poll of leaders for the Jack Adams, and Coop was not. Do you see the list, Steve? It was 5. He was fifth. So they had the top 4 guys on there. And Joel Quenneville was on there. Anaheim is near the bottom of the standings. I think they've improved this year, and Joel Quenneville will help them, but I think it's kind of the Ducks are more competitive this year. The first thing I'm going to say is this. That poll was conducted with writers on NHL.com. Not one person who did that poll will actually have a vote for the Jack Adams. Unless they moonlight as a broadcaster, which I don't think any of them do, where they would get a vote. They get all the other votes. They do not vote for Jack Adams. This is one of these exercises that we talk about, Greg, where they're doing a NHL.com writers poll for Selke, for Hart, for Jack Adams, for Norris. So they don't actually vote on the Jack Adams. So none of those votes are going to count. If those people feel the same way, they don't get a vote for the Jack Adams. It's the broadcasters. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Some broadcasters will vote for John Cooper if the Lightning have the second half that they had in the first, particularly given the injury situation this year. Does that mean that every broadcaster is going to pick him first? Assuredly not. There are a lot of other worthy candidates, frankly. Hey, Marty St. Louis, if the Canadians win the division, Marty St. Louis is going to get a lot of votes. Bednar is going to get a lot of votes.
You know my philosophy on this.
Yes.
To avoid all of this BS, because it is. The fact that John Cooper has not won this award, we all can agree. Can we all agree out there, Lightning fans, Mish? That it almost feels like it's not a serious award. That John Cooper, who is going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, Mish, he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
He's the best coach in the NHL over the last, you want to say 10, 11 years, 13 years. I mean, it's 13 years since he took over. You want to start that first year, 13, 14. It's been This is the 13th season. There's been no coach in the NHL who has accomplished more than him.
No, and the fact that he hasn't won that award to acknowledge it
there's something faulty with the award when the votes are cast and what it's considering.
For sure.
That's the problem.
Had we gone by my theory, the best coach in the league is the one who wins the Stanley Cup. John Cooper would have 2, and I think we all would be in a position where that feels a lot better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know they're not going to do it, but this is beyond bizarre. It just is, and I can't take it seriously.
This poll, because Steve sent me, Cooper was actually 6th. Bednar 1, Joel Quenneville 2 with Anaheim, Todd McClellan in Detroit 3. The Red Wings have exceeded expectations. John Hines in Minnesota 4. Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia 5. Coop 6.
Yeah.
Those teams, other than Bednar with Colorado, those teams are all teams that people, the writers that are voting on this, thought would be somewhere in the standings, and all of those teams, the 4 of them, are higher right now than where those writers who cast those votes thought they would be. And the Avalanche are probably higher too, because nobody, I think, predicted that the Avs would have 31 wins through the first 42 games.
What does everybody think?
Let's see how the votes actually play out when they're actually cast.
We need to use the eye test, people, and you can do that for coaches. You can do that with the way their team is. And we're not going to perseverate on it, but as long as this conversation keeps popping up, that is going to be my response to this nonsense. That's what it is. It is nonsense. Does everybody love it? What else we got? Oh, this one is with a Rangers fan also. I think the argument is the amount of man lost due to injury plus the number of rookies that bought into the system. I think we are at 26 different players now.
Yeah, and I think some broadcasters will take that into account and put them on their ballot. Maybe first, maybe second, maybe third.
Yeah.
But we still got half a season to go.
We do.
I think the original question was, if Canada wins Olympic gold, will that help John Cooper? It certainly won't hurt John Cooper in this very specific discussion we're having about the Jack Adams.
I would agree. And lastly, Tampa Bay says the media doesn't care about Tampa. I know that's kind of a default response, particularly with players who have had really good years and maybe they're not in the conversation for top player, top defenseman. I understand that. Maybe that is true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I just think, look, the media loves John Cooper. The national media.
Yes.
So I don't.
TNT loves John Cooper.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's necessarily a thing on Tampa. I just think it's okay to admit people make mistakes. We have made a big mistake not having John Cooper as the best coach in the league, at least for one of those years, and it's okay to admit that. That's just how I would read into it. Anyways. Partner, it was great to have you back.
Yeah.
We missed you, and we're glad you're here, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow.
Pre-tape tomorrow because the Lightning head to Philly. Speaking of Rick Tocchet.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I can put that on my calendar. So we're going to pre-tape tomorrow. We're going to pre-tape tomorrow.
Alert to Greg.
Alert to Greg. Tomorrow. Pre-tape it. Go to my calendar. And then we'll have a game to break down on Monday, recapping.
Yes, which is another game day.
Yeah, another game day. So we'll have a lot of good stuff there. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow. Great job.
Talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks to Steve Ersnick. We always appreciate his expertise behind the scenes. Jared Johnson as well. For everybody who listened, we appreciate you guys. You know that. I am Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch right here on Lightning Radio.